The court system. That's probably the end of money at the moment. If I haven't made it obvious to you, then I'm not sure how else I could do it. I do. There's a whole chapter in my book on it. In fact, there's a chapter called Money, and there's right at the end, there's a chapter called Mind Control and Enslavement. One other thing I will say, which isn't in here and isn't in the book, of course, one other interesting aspect about money is the government can charter the Bank of England to create money. Right? If the government can do that, which they do, what happens is the government create bonds, they offer them to the Bank of England, the Bank of England then pay money across to the government or make loans to the government, which have to be paid back with interest. Right? So in other words, we've got government here, Bank of England here, government wants money, goes to Bank of England, says, give us some money. Bank of England says, yes, how much do you want? Have it. Don't forget, you've got to pay it back to us with interest. Oh, that's all right, says the government. We'll get it from the taxpayers. Various ways. Now, if the government can charter the Bank of England to create money, why can't it do it itself? Why can the government not just simply create the money itself? Then it wouldn't have to borrow it, and it wouldn't have to pay it back, would it? Would it? Why would it want to pay itself back? So when people who are standing up against council tax are criticised by people who say, well, how would local services be paid? The answer is very simple. For the government to stop chartering the Bank of England, to make its money itself and give it to the local council to run services if you want to keep a monetary system going. Now, Abraham Lincoln instituted that system in the United States. He created what are called greenbacks. What happened to Abraham Lincoln? JFK had created executive orders to put that system into the United States. What happened to JFK? Andrew Jackson, another American president, sometimes known as Old Hickory, fought against the banks tooth and nail. Now, he was not actually assassinated, but attempts were made on his life towards the end of his term of office. So he did actually live out his term of office, because they missed, basically. He didn't live out his term of office. And subsequently, after he left office and another president came in, the banks got their way. But the point is that the system has been tried, it does work. But it's kind of terminal for whoever's in power, whoever's president or whatever. Which proves it works, actually, because they don't assassinate, the banksters don't assassinate you for no reason. So, yes, but very simply, the answer is, how would services be paid for? Well, because the government could just create the money and issue it to pay for services. Pay for road tax, pay for car insurance, pay for TV licensing, pay for anything. I mean, after all, just think about it. Say it in my book, HM, Revenue and Customs, collect income tax these days. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Okay? And who is responsible for determining fiscal policy and allowing the Bank of England the freedom to create money? HM Treasury. Well, if HM Revenue and Customs want money, why can't they go to HM Treasury and get HM Treasury to organise some money for them? Why do they have to bother you and I? They don't, actually, in reality. But of course, if they don't bother you and I, what would happen? Oh, you'd be free to do anything you liked. You'd be free to work or not, and to work at what you wanted to work at, without having to go to work to earn a certain amount of money in order to live. You could actually, if you wished, go and lay on the beach, if that was your bag. Or you could stay at home and write poetry, you could play guitar, you could paint, you could go out and start a forest, you could plough a field, you could do whatever you were good at. But no, I've got to keep going to this particular job. I don't like the job, I hate the people I work for, but it earns the money. Because the money comes down from the source, the banks, down to you, and they take a bit from you. So it goes back up to revenue and customs. But it could go straight between one and the other if they really wanted a monetary system. It's designed that way to keep you under control. It explains it all in my book. The court system, chock full of problems, largely because people do not know the roles that judges and magistrates have agreed to play via their solemnly sworn oaths of office. Added to this, the fact that grand juries were abolished in 1931. I reckon the system is fundamentally flawed, just like the parliamentary system, and it's irretrievably broken, such that tinkering with it only makes things worse as far as true, honourable, real, unbiased justice is concerned. The solutions I propose, or I suggest, are to bring judges back to their oaths of office and don't let them extend their so-called authority past this oath. This would limit them solely to running courts de jure, and no further statutes will be required. EC regulations would also be redundant. When running a court de jure, the judge sits there, you have a jury, you have the accused, you have the accuser, and you have witnesses, and the witnesses are asked questions. And the judge's job is to hear objections. Objection, leading the witness. Objection overruled, objection sustained. The job of the judge is to make sure that only first-hand real evidence is presented to the jury. That's the job of a judge, beginning, middle and end. An umpire, in other words. Abolish magistrates and reconvene grand juries. Abolish politics, religion, legalism, money, especially money which takes all the others with it into the dustbin of history. What will we do without money? Live is the answer. We would discover that laying on the beach and doing nothing, after a while we'd get bored and we'd find something to do. Find something productive to do. The only reward I need is not money. I mean, I have to use a certain amount of it because money is still the king. Without money, I can't buy bread, whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, the only reward I need is the fact that I get respect because I am trying to contribute to humanity and mankind as a whole in a positive way. And that's the only reward I really need, and that's the reward I'm tending to get. And I suggest that's the only reward anybody needs, really. And if you don't contribute, and most people are, you won't get respect. And if you don't get respect, you'll get your shit together and start doing something that earns respect. I believe. And I believe that we could do away with money today. There would be a bit of a panic for a few months, perhaps a couple of months, 3 months at most. And then people would start to realise, well, hang on a second, if I did what I used to do, because I'm good at it, I know how to do it, why don't I just go out and do it? Drive a truck. Or whatever, mill some bread, mill some flour, bake some bread or whatever, make some cakes or whatever. Run an eatery, run a cafe. People just walk in, sit down, I make them a cup of coffee. If I want coffee, I go to the cash and carry and I just take it off the shelf. And it gets filled up with people who are doing the job of filling up the shelves before, manufacturing coffee and doing it, because there's no money, nobody gets paid. But the point is this, that the people who run this planet, the global elite, the Zionists, the Rothschilds, the Freemasons, suddenly all the numbers in their bank account mean nothing. All the numbers in their bank account mean nothing. So they are brought down to the same level as us. Suitably enlightened, we could establish sovereign republics for England, Wales and Scotland and possibly Northern Ireland. However, it might be better to give it back to the Irish. After all, it is theirs. And of course, IRA, the Southern Ireland, is the only sovereign republic on the planet. What does sovereign mean? It means every Irishman and every Irish woman are declared by their constitution to be sovereign. And what does sovereignty mean? Well, it means that your consent for anything other than common law, your consent is always needed for it to apply to you. So, for example, if you have a government and they propose something, if you don't vote for it or you vote no, it doesn't apply to you. Only those who said yes, it applies to. You might say, well, it'd be difficult to govern under those circumstances. That's the point. That's exactly the point. Common law still applies, whether you're, whether you're sovereign or not. You still need to accept living in peace.